Hello, listeners, and welcome to part 2 of this mini-series with Brandon Chadwick, host of the Narcissist Apocalypse podcast. For early access to ad-free and full-length episodes of the Cult Vault podcast, please visit patreon.com/The Cult Vault. Now here is Brandon. It's not just the people that you might struggle to trust once you are removed from that version of reality. It's also your entire belief system and everything you know to be true. It's everything that you've learned in your life. You have to work out what you're going to keep and what you're going to discard, because it's part of the old reality, that it's stuff that's not true. It's stuff that doesn't fit with your new reality. And I think that from the individuals I've spoken to that are going through those journeys, it's a continuous deconstruction that never really ends. And there are triggers in everyday life in what seem like typical situations for worldly people that have never had these experiences. At the beginning of my good friend Erica Bourneman's memoir, Mission of Malice, it opens on a moment where Erica goes with her boyfriend to her boyfriend's friend's party, a gathering of people at her home, which is just quite typical for people that haven't grown up in such strict religious insular environments. And someone hands her a knife and says, "Can you cut this fruit?" And all of a sudden, she's in her head going into kind of meltdown mode, thinking, how do I cut this fruit? How thick should I make the slices? How should I? And I think that vivid picture of what seems like a simple task for some, but can be so unsettling to others, speaks to just how much individuals have to unpack when they move out of these abusive environments. And I can only imagine that the stories that you've heard are so similar in that sense. Unlearning dependency and codependency from those abusive environments, often what leads individuals to return to those situations time and time again before they fully are able to escape from them. What would you say are the most commonalities across your episodes that you've been able to identify?
Well, the number one thing everyone says in their words of wisdom would be trust your gut. Would be the number one thing. But for the most part, what is going on when it is a relationship, I see things a lot through the addiction lens. So we are seeing how an addiction is being formed. How is it done? So what we're kind of looking for is the commonality between all of them is that someone has an unhealthy trait for the most part, or they might have come from trauma. They might have an admirable trait as well that might just be unhealthy. And I guess the most common thing is how that person will just go about. Everyone has a match. What might work on one person won't work on another person. But there is someone out there that has something that can work on you, and how to, they'll butter up this core fear, core desire about you, competency. If you're someone that needs love, that's obvious. That's the most common one. People that are never had love and are looking for love. That is, I guess, the biggest core fear and core desire that's being filled. If I had to say, we try to give everyone the Enneagram test before the show to find out what their personality type is. And every personality type has a core fear and a core desire. And an Enneagram type 2, which is called the helper, there's a few that are like the biggest people pleasers. And number 2 is the helper. And their core fear and desire is that they never receive like love growing up. So they'll do things for other people to receive that love. So they're givers who are giving to get love. I'm an Enneagram 6. I want security. So, being a six, I want someone that's going to act reliable, who's going to be really reliable, that I can rely on them, that that they'll be there. I'm not looking for love. I just want reliability. So if someone came to me and started to be the most reliable person in the world, I'm with you. Like, you got me. But once they got me and I'm putting that reliability onto them and not getting that reliability from myself anymore, that's the trick. They're trying to get you to get it from them and stop getting it from yourself. A lot of people aren't getting it from themselves in the first place, but there are people that are getting it from themselves, but they've tricked them into getting that thing from them. And once they have that thing, they can take it away. So once they take it away, you start acting, oh my God, what's going on here? Then they can give it back to you. Once they give it back to you, you're like, ah, but that's drugs. They take, like, that's your withdrawal from drugs. And then they give you the drugs back. You get your fix. And over time, they can take it away and they can make that time last longer. And then you get it back and they can take it away even longer. So they can abuse you for a while, but then they'll give you that morsel back. And then you're like, okay. So they can start extending it. And once they got you, it's tough to get out of that cycle, because just like if you're a cocaine addict or you're a heroin addict, a lot of times you think the only thing that can fix you or help you, and alcohol as well, is the thing that's killing you. So we try to show everyone that, like, everyone usually has a thing, and even the people who have boundaries and have really, really, really good boundaries, and we see this a lot, that there's someone who has really good boundaries and they're a no person. No, 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 no. But the other person is crude in what they do. They're not finessing and they're relentless. The ones that are going up against the no people, they'll just ram. They'll ram into your fence. They'll ram into your fence. They'll just keep on going until the other person might have said no 100 times, but now they couldn't take it anymore. And they're just like, okay, I'll do what you want to do. It's a very crude way of doing things. But for someone who has very good boundaries, you can't finesse them. You have to ram straight through that fence until you've done it so many times that it creates a hole. So there's different strategies for different people. And there's always someone that, like, that ramming person might not work on someone else, but this finesse job, like, if I'm buttering you up because of your competency, you might be like, that doesn't work on me, but there's some people out there that are, like, need to know that, like, they might have been told their whole life that they're not smart and they're a perfectionist and they need this, and oh my God, you're the smartest person in the world, da, 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 da. You're so good at this, you're so good at that. Okay, now I'm getting it from them. That then there's the one day saying, you're dumb. Boom, gone. So there's this kind of commonality between how that kind of works. But the number one type we see is usually an Enneagram type 2, specifically for love.
See so many people from my life in all of the things that you've just said, and I can see their faces in my mind, and I can also recall so many episodes where those situations have happened with individuals who have been led into cultic environments or coerced into things that they typically wouldn't have said yes to. I think that that's absolutely fascinating that you've just been able to lay that out. Are there other modalities that you use, or would this be the main one?
Well, what we try to do with the show is, and how it's evolved over time, is now we really do at the beginning of the show get into who your parents were, like how you were raised, like what were the things kind of going on. We try to get to know the other person as much as possible, what their beliefs are in relationships, how they view the world, how they think the world views them. And we try to go through all of that, because a long time ago, there was this documentary called Dirty John, not the TV show. And it's about these three women who were conned by a con man. And I thought it was a great documentary and it was entertaining and I loved it. And when I started doing the show, I went and started reading the reviews. And the reviews were, mostly good, but you had the people being like, why would this person's stupid? I was like, oh, that's what they did wrong. they didn't explain the psychology of the person of why they would be susceptible to this. If they explain the psychology, would that make a great documentary, or would people get bored while watching that in that documentary? That's possible that they would be like, I don't want to watch this. But if you're going to actually tell the story in the sense of like for people to understand why they made their choices, you won't say that they're dumb anymore. You'll understand it because here's your map. All they had to do is look at and understand that this was the person that they're dealing with, and you know which buttons to press and the levers to pull. A lot of the time, they're pulling those things to see which levers are going to work. But once you explain the person's psychology, which is now what we really try to do, we do that so there's no shame. You feel less shame or guilt about things when you can see an actual map of how it was done to you, and that like you're not dumb. The person you were with was the perfect person to do this to you. They saw it, they did this. This was going to be your reaction no matter what. It makes you do this. They say this. You feel guilt about that. You're putty in their hands. So we try to explain that in the first part of our show now and really go into as much detail as we can. So when these things do start happening, it makes sense to people why you did that. And that's when I'll usually come in to be like, explain, okay, I do roundups. I'm like, here's your psychology roundup of why. Like sometimes I'll say out loud, like, oh, you have no chance. Like after hearing your childhood, like if you were to meet someone, sometimes people have like one person that could do something to them. Sometimes like they have so many things going on. There's multiple ways to get them. And then they meet someone, and whatever like that first kind of pull or trick they pull, I'm like, oh, you're hooked. You have no chance at this point. None. No chance. And no matter what, you are locked in. They do a masterful job of manipulating your psychology, and done. Toast. And then it's all about like getting to a point where things get so bad. How do I get out of this gravitational pull?
There's so much overlap between the work that you've been doing and the conversations that I've had with individuals on the show. And everything that you've said there, you could apply to individuals that have been victims of coercive control, right down to the point where if you're approached by the wrong person at the wrong moment in your life, you could be swept up into any number of cultic environments. And I think it was Bob Menner that once said those words, if you meet the wrong person at the wrong time, um they're gonna grab you. And it's like con artistry. And when I spoke to Dr. Shaham Das about narcissism, I said to him, how is it that a narcissist is able to pull on those things that you've just been talking about? And he mentioned that it's like a mirror. Individuals, they're able to reflect to their victims or to their prey, essentially, what that person needs from them, or reflect to them what it is that the person is seeking. And that word seeking, I think everybody listening will know, is so prevalent in these types of environments. And I think that there's so much in what you've just said that I can reconcile with what Shaham said as well. And I think it's amazing for me to hear all of this kind of all coming together in my own mind.
Yeah, because I'm a natural investigator. So for me to break it down in like these kind of techniques is the easiest way to do, and the easiest way to explain to other people that are kind of going through it. And it's the most layman's terms you can use for others to understand. And you try to use as many like analogies or metaphors for a lot of these situations as possible, but it really is the easiest way for people to see things, and you kind of have to break them down one by one, like trap set. And when it comes to the mirroring and the idealization of someone, when an abuser is doing that and they're in the stage of, you as the partner are perfect, and they've idealized you as perfect, and for a long time they're seeing you as this perfect thing, and you're on a pedestal, and a lot of times you're putting that person on a pedestal too. But after a little bit of time, when you're not acting the way that they want you to act as this thing that they have in their mind, they'll start ripping you apart, because no one is perfect. And then once you, as I said before, once your worth is in someone else's hands, it's done. But when the abuser is the one idealizing you, they have this, idealized version of you that also doesn't exist. So when you stop being that thing, or at least in their fantasy, when that fantasy for them kind of goes away, and the devaluation of you begins, you're never going to be able to live up to, it's a fantasy. You can't live up to a fantasy. No one is a perfect human being. And then they'll just see you, they don't see you as a human being, really. It becomes very black and white. Like, there's no in between. There's no conversation. It's either you fit my thing or you don't fit my thing. There's nothing in between.
It's clear that you have really learned so much since beginning this show. You speak so eloquently about it. Have you decided what the roadmap of your show looks like, and any ideas where you'd like to take it, or where you'd like to go with your own personal journey in terms of perhaps formal education to put credentials to everything you've learned?
Um, I think I am. Well, we're going to do the show in the same way. If there's more things that we kind of learn along the way that can add to what we're doing, we add them. Like, slowly it kind of happens here or there. You kind of get an aha moment of like what else to kind of tell. um we have a support group, and we're going to be revamping how that group works, and to grow that. And I'm big into like peer support. Our current group that is there is big into helping other people as like senior members, and bringing people in and helping people out, and growing that. And then as far as, I guess, the show goes, just revamping how we do our bonus episodes, and doing things in the pop culture way, being able to reach out to people who are might not be looking for things, and will find our videos, these specific videos for YouTube or for bonus episodes, where they'll be like, oh, that's interesting, and they come to find other stuff. I'm really big into backdooring people. And so I created this, but I like the idea of having people who aren't looking for this kind of stuff to be like, oh, that's what happened, or that makes sense. Oh, I grew up that way. I knew something was wrong. And then they kind of go into that, so they can go into their own healing process after they learn about it. So eventually I do want to finish my book, the book that started it all, because I've learned so much since then. I know how to improve it. And it is a huge mishmash of genres, but it is still a self-help book at heart, but it is one that uses humor. So in my mind, it would be a humor book, but you're going to read it and you're going to be like, oh. And as I said before, when I wrote it, I was like, oh, this stuff is absurd. It's not absurd. What I wrote was like it's not out of the realm I thought it was. But now that I've heard so many stories, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. So, um, like, those are kind of the things I want to do. Eventually, like, I would love to get more into, having on the host, or the person that created, let's say, Arrested Development, and talking to him and being like, how did you create this show? Speaking of absurdity, it's an absurd show, but at its heart, every character is it's from dysfunction, and their reactions are true to their character, and they're all narcissistic themselves. The eye rolls in the show, all these little subtle things that make them go crazy, that's real. So I really want to talk to them about creating those characters, and where did he come from to be able to write this thing so effectively? And then maybe eventually, over time, finding actors who played characters that are narcissistic and things like that, and be like, how did you delve into creating that character? Where did you go? And having them explain the character themselves, because they had to embody that person. So if you could one day, dreams would be like if one day you could get like a Daniel Day-Lewis to discuss him playing Daniel Plainview from There Will Be Blood, and like because that is a character and like the depths that he had to go. So having him explain his own character to people and how that character functioned, because he had to know that character in and out to play it so effectively, but he can do it from a very logical perspective where he understands his functions. And I think that can be helpful for someone to hear. So to be able to kind of cross over into doing things like that, where you're educating people still, but you're also getting into this pop culture world while doing it and talking to some bigger names, but people who have like a real sense of the identity of who they're dealing with. And I think that could be helpful because if you're diving into playing that character, people always want to hear a point of view a lot of the time from the abuser's standpoint. And I think it would be more comfortable for people to hear someone who played the character than the actual abusive person themselves. It's a safer kind of place to be, and in a way, a more entertaining kind of place to be as well, because you might get little tidbits of the story of the set and stuff like that. But that's a dream.
When did you release your first episode? Do you remember?
My first episode was February like 4th, something like that, 2019.
Okay. And how many episodes are available if people were to go and have a look today?
We have 260 plus episodes, and we do 2 episodes a week because we also have a Q&A episode where a lot of the time we'll speak to an expert in the field, or sometimes I'll just go through books or figure out, okay, this book has like this thing I want people to hear. Maybe they won't read the book, but here's an important thing from it, and then maybe they'll go buy the book after. So we've had Evan Stark on, who wrote the book on coercive control. He helped change the law in the UK that you can get arrested for coercive control. We've had Dr. Kenneth Adams, who's the foremost expert in enmeshment, which is huge for family members to understand exactly how what they lived. So we try to get that. We have on therapists, and those are their specialties in those situations. We've had authors on, and we have other podcasts on, like when we deal with grief and those things. So we have like a mishmash of survivor stories and the Q&As, and I lost my train of thought. So I have no idea where I was going with that.
I
But we have
love that.
we have 260 plus episodes, and now we're going to be revamping how we do the bonus ones. And Jennifer's Body was the first. Invisible Man has been recorded, and then we're going to be doing Pretty Woman, and going on and
Dirty
trying to find
Dancing.
Dirty Dancing. And I think we're going to do like Don't Worry, Darling, because of what also happened behind the scenes of the movie and how it spilled over, and how that is an interesting dynamic going on, not just on screen. And like the people making the movie might not have been the nicest people in the world.
I think that I w watched a video where the cast of Dirty Dancing, they didn't like each other as well. But
Yeah, it could be
there's
problematic, and then they have to make it work. And then when you find out the dynamics of what's going on, and you know it adds to discussing the movie in a lot of ways.
There's a ton of various content that people can go and listen to, and I feel as though it could be extremely helpful for listeners of the Cult Vault who listen to these episodes for um advice from other survivors, for validation, to head over to listen to the Narcissist Apocalypse and get some more of that same thing from all of the stuff that you've said, Brandon. On a side note, have you spoken with Daniel Shaw?
I have not spoken with Daniel Shore. No.
He has written a book on traumatic narcissism, and he is an incredible
Oh, sorry.
individual.
Sorry, Daniel Shaw. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I thought you
yeah.
said Daniel Shore. The
Yeah,
accent.
no, sorry, that's
Oh
how,
yeah,
yeah,
Daniel
yeah.
Shaw. One person that listens to the show. She is a huge, huge fan of that book. Huge fan of that book. I have not read that book. It is a $66 to $70 book. I haven't bought it yet, but I have to read that book. I do have to read that book.
You should reach out to Daniel because I think that he would probably send you a copy just to further your own work. He's a very passionate person about expanding the education and to work with individuals that are helping others recover from these environments. So I think that he'd be really interested in having I reckon you two could have a really, because I spoke with Daniel and I felt of course out of my depth because he is an expert on the subject and I am not. So I really went back to basics and we broke down the term narcissism. And then really went from there to go on to look at traumatic narcissism, because he coined the term. So I had to ask him, how, what do you research and everything to come up with a term like that? So I think the two of you and all of the knowledge that you have could have a really interesting discussion. I would love to listen to that.
The other person who has been trying to get me to purchase his book. I will reach out to him, and what I will probably do if he does say yes, I'll bring that person who's been telling me to buy the book to be my co-host for the episode, so they can talk to him too. Because we had an episode with Mark Vicente, who was from the cult Nexium, and Mark Vicente and his producer got a hold of me one day, and I have someone that helps me with the show here and there, who's the de facto producer of the show. And I texted her and I said, "Hey, we have this person from this called Nexium. He was on a show called The Vow. I haven't heard of it." And then they want to help and they want to be on the show. And anyway, the next day, I wake up and there's a text from this person. And this person goes, "Oh my God, I started watching The Vow like last week. And literally the day yesterday when you sent this to me, I said, I want to speak with Mark and his wife." And then I wrote back, "Well, you're going to get your chance." So she did the interview with me, with Mark Vicente. And thank goodness she did, because she was way more knowledgeable about like the cult at that point. I had to like really get up to speed in a week. It's hard to get up to speed in a week when you're trying to collect all that information.
Yeah.
So she did it with me. I asked the fluffy questions and she got into like the real nitty gritty. And I think that's kind of what we try to do here as well. Like if someone is like really pushing you to have someone on, to bring someone on that's in the audience and in your community, and give them the opportunity to be a part of that. It makes more of a feeling that it's not just me or you, that like we're all kind of this together, and that um if you're the one pushing me hard to do that and we get them on, sure, come on and do it with me. It's more fun.
Just making the magic happen all over the show. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. I would be more than happy to connect the two of you in an email as well. I
Thank
think
you.
he would be really, really, Yeah, up for. I think he just loves the chance to talk about the work. Although he's doing like a million different things, which I'm sure he can tell you all about with different jobs, work, positions, all sorts of things. So just for this last segment, I should have asked you this at the start, I suppose. You said that the term narcissist or narcissism has so many different ways to be defined. And people always say to me, how do you define a cult? And I don't know if I like the question. I think I dislike the question. And my go-to answer is always that I think everybody defines the term differently. Everybody has a different version of what that word means. I have in my life now had several different definitions of the term cult that I thought were accurate. And in my mind, it still changes all of the time as my own education continues. How would you define narcissistic abuse?
Well, I I take it all out of the equation now. And when I first started, I kind of just took the definition from a Reddit subreddit. And it's like, okay, this is good enough for now. And then over time, I changed it to be very loose, you know, a selfish person. Like that's what we're dealing with here. Just because people are writing in and we're not being able to diagnose anyone with narcissistic personality disorder. They could have other disorders. They might not even have a disorder. They just might be an abuser. So the term narcissist, or if you're dealing with someone with a personality disorder, it helps a survivor understand who they might be dealing with. So those labels to me are helpful because it's helping them make sense of something that's not making sense. It gives them an aha moment of like, this is what I'm dealing with. Okay, this is the first part of the puzzle. It's not me. So I understand that aspect of it. But when it comes now to abuse as a whole, because I see the show, and if I could rename the show Patterns of Abuse, and Patterns of Abuse being the name and people being finding the show, great. But no one's technically looking up patterns of abuse. They're looking up the word narcissist. That's how I get found. So Lundy Bancroft in the book, Why Does He Do That? He has 10 different types of abusers. And the 10th one is one that is applies to the other nine. So you can be the 10th one, but you also have to be one of the other nine. The 10th one isn't something that's on its own. So there's like 9 different types of abusers. So I kind of try to have people look at it and like, okay, I am an abusive person. Am I a Mr. Right? Am I a water torturer? Am I a Rambo? Am I a terrorist? Am I a demand man? Like, which one am I going to fall into? And then there's category 10. And category 10 is, do I have narcissistic personality disorder on top of this? Do I have a borderline? Am I a drug addict? Do I have a gambling problem? Do I have other mental health issues that can contribute to the abuse? So I've been trying to kind of get away from narcissistic abuse as a whole and being like, okay, now when people come on, which one of these 9 is the dominant type that you're dealing with? Are there offshoots from other ones? And then on top of that, like, look, do they fit any of these traits? Because they're overlapping so much. It's hard to like put like, yes, this is who we're dealing with. So I don't get any person saying to me, well, you're an ableist. You are demonizing people with disorders or demonizing people with this. I try to move into what is your abuser type? And then if someone wants to label them in another way as well, sure. But sometimes I feel that by using the word narcissist instead of the word abuser, it softens what the other person really is. So when you're telling someone, oh, I was with a narcissist, everyone's using that word. Oh, I was with an abuser. Now you have that person. So in a way, I think, that word softens things and doesn't give the extent of who you're dealing with. So I kind of tried to move away from that and start. I can only do it myself. I can't force other people, because other people are just, I can't, no one can force anyone to do anything. Like, that's all all right. Do what you want to do. You have free will. But for me, I like to be like, okay, this is our abuser, and this is what they are, and these are what their traits are. And, you know, if you're selfish, if you're narcissistic, sure, that fits our definition. So we still kind of use the whole thing as like one on an umbrella, but um, I just like to really look at things as abuse now. I know I didn't answer your question, but
You did, you
um,
did, you did answer it. You did answer it, and I'm nodding away because um it's again it's the same experience that I've had here. The name of the show sometimes is misleading, and some people have said, oh, but you're not just covering cults on your show, you're talking about small religious congregations in the south of America. And then I say, well, maybe they're one and the same, not all of them, but certainly some, as explored in the show. So I did have to put out a few disclaimers, just saying that the name of the show is The Cult Vault, but the content is high demand religious groups, coercive control, intimate partnerships, and all of the above. So again, I'm nodding away because I can see how our paths have been so similar in the way that both the shows have changed over time. And what I really, really love about both platforms is that any individual that has a story that fits within the wide parameters that we explore is welcomed to come and share that. And I sometimes read about other podcasts on Reddit and other places where only certain types of guests are accepted, or only certain stories are picked. And I think that that's really unfortunate because, as you said, there are so many people out there who have not had a chance to be heard, who have not been given the opportunity to tell their story. So having that loose definition and being flexible with the guests that you have gives so many more people the opportunity to come forward and as you said, have a voice, perhaps for the first time even ever.
yeah, like the one thing, as you know, when it comes to creating a show, not everyone is a storyteller. So we record with a lot of people, but not every episode will make it to actual air. And there are myriad of reasons that can happen. And storytelling ability isn't the easiest thing to do. Sometimes someone can freeze, and it becomes difficult. But there's a way to tell a story and bring effective learning lessons. So those are the kinds of things that I'm telling people before. I'm like, we want you to create learning lessons for people and take it seriously in the sense of you are a teacher in this situation. And like, what do you want people to learn, and to come with that attitude toward it. And not everyone is there to do that yet. And that's kind of the toughest thing when that happens, because a lot of people just want to get their story out. But we're trying to say, like, okay, we did it and we recorded. Maybe right now is not the best time to do it, because a lot of times some people don't have the perspective of time to see actually what has gone on themselves. So there's like a lot of things like that kind of go on when we're putting out the most effective show or episodes that we can. And perspective is a really big thing, because sometimes people are really raw and they want to tell it, and we're just like, we think it's in your best interest to not do it. We also don't want to re-traumatize people.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they think they're ready and then they're not ready. So there's those little things where we're not putting all the episodes out that we do record, but we also have a responsibility to the community to have the best ones for them to be put out at the same time. It's a tricky kind of thing to do, and be compassionate with everything at the exact same time.
In regards to the subject itself, you've mentioned a few things here and there about your own personal experiences and your own dysfunction being something that you can draw on when you're having conversations with individuals. So, do you feel like the exodus of everything is really your own experience, which influenced you to write the book, which has then influenced the podcast itself?
Yeah. I am, when someone comes from dysfunction, I understand that, like understanding how everyone's role. I once did something called like the Hoffman process, where you kind of really they got you to understand exactly how you were raised, and everyone else who was doing it with you, you were hearing their stories and their breakdowns of their families, and you really got to know everyone's role, what your role was, why your role was your role. So being able to listen to people's stories, I can tune into those. And then I'm also a codependent person. I became codependent. I've been codependent my whole life. And it's one of those things you actively have to work on. And so sometimes you don't get into a relationship with someone who is narcissistic per se, and is not an abuser, but can be a selfish person and has a different personality in the sense of attachment style. And that might not be a great combination. And even though it's not abusive, there are things in there that I can hark back on, or how I felt in a situation that might have come from my codependency, and really be able to attach. I'm like, okay, I can get how they're feeling about this and that. And then my logical brain can kind of take over. And once you hear so many stories, it's like you're an encyclopedia. Um, like I've had someone come up to me who's a friend of a friend and start discussing a situation. And then I go, stop. And then I just continued and went. They're like, how did you know? And I go, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And then I'll ask a question, they say something, and then I go, and then they did this. And they're like, how are you telling me this story? How is that possible? I go, I've heard it so many times that I can fill in all of your blanks. There's like a certain amount of them. And like, it's rare now that someone will pull something that I haven't heard before. So I know it. I just know, you learn by osmosis. It just got in you, and you didn't intend to learn it, but it's there. And it's how you breathe.
Something that's happened with me since starting the show is that I recognize cult-like things everywhere. I can't stop seeing cults all around me in everyday situations, in everything I watch on the telly. Everything is about cults and coercion. Do you find that that is the same for you in terms of your podcast?
Uh, if I overhear someone, like I'm actively eavesdropping, I'll think it in my mind. If I'm at a coffee shop, with the coffee shop that I go to, I try my best to not be like, by the way, I overheard what you just said. Da 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 da. I think I might have done that once, and then I just stopped myself. I'm like, turn yourself off, relax, don't watch the news, don't do this, don't do that. You already do enough, and like you have to kind of relax. So when someone's doing that, my mind starts computing right away, and then I'm like, stop, just go back to what you're doing, don't get involved. Like, because you could, like, if I start that conversation, I could be there for 2 hours and now I haven't done any work and now I don't have an episode to do for Friday.
So you are supposed to be editing today.
Yes.
And we're having a nice little chit chat, and I probably could keep on talking, but please tell the listeners where they can find you and your work. I know you have a website. You mentioned in one of your recent episodes that you're planning a project as well to support people with small businesses. That sounds incredible. Just tell us about everything and where people can find you.
So our podcast is available on all podcast apps, and our website is narcissistapocalypse.com. At the top of the page, there's a button that says guest form if you want to be on our show. Click on that button, read all of, I'm doing the spiel from the show. So we have our website. On our website, you can click on our support group. Our support group is run by the Mighty Networks and it is our very own, it's our own Facebook. And they're revamping the software in the next week. So we'll be able to, it's a place instead of Patreon where people can interact with each other and not just me. And I felt that that was important. So people will be able to talk to each other and just support each other and become friends. If you live near each other, you might be able to hang out. If you have subjects you have in common, you'll be able to see which ones with the hashtags. It's its own kind of beast in itself. And we're going to eventually really start promoting that more in the future. We have Zoom meetings. We're just figuring out a way to best scale things. And when it comes to that initiative, I've been wanting to do it for a while, but I'm lazy. And the simplest thing I can do is create a page where if you have an Etsy store, if you have a eBay store, whatever you're kind of selling online, if you are a freelance writer, if you're a freelance editor, things like that, whatever business you kind of have, we're just going to create a page and we're going to kind of have little sections here and there. And then eventually we're going to tell people, we're going to put your shop on here, or at least like you can click on it. It'll take you to your Etsy shop. Like we're not taking any money for it, but we're going to start telling people, hey, like if you're going to shop like in this season or for a birthday present, or you're going to use this, use something from these people. They might be trying to squirrel money away to get out of the situation they're in, or they might be out of their situation. They're just trying to live. They're just trying to survive. And they've been dealt a really bad hand. And that's the simplest thing we can do. And trying to get people there to use their services, that's like we're not really doing, I'm just putting something up there and then telling people to go there. It doesn't take me any work really, but it's kind of simple. It will help. If somebody shops from one person one time, we help make someone money. So we're going to kind of do that and build it out. And now we're going to get into more of kind of mining the shows and creating content. And then a lot of work just to go into creating summaries of episodes and not transcripts.
Oh
So
my
like,
goodness.
so like people can get the key points of what they
Yeah.
like, be like, okay, here's the thing for me to, and maybe some prompt questions and things like that. So to really start making things for people. And then the toughest thing is I have 200 and something episodes. Someone says to me, what episode should I listen to first? Figuring that out for people and like how to do that isn't easy. So to kind of figure that out so I can start sending to people and being like, and to also not insult people who've been on the show before and being like, well, you didn't make the top 10 list here for like this specific subject or that, to try and kind of do it in a way that's can have all the episodes heard and to not devalue that maybe someone didn't derive value from this episode or that episode, and to make it the best way for people to hear what they need to hear, like, oh, listen to this, I think this will resonate with you, and like to figure out how to do that. I guess that's it.
I appreciate you being here today, Brandon, and for letting us into your world and being on the receiving end of the questions for once, and for just all of the work that you do, and the tireless hours of constant grifting that goes into putting together a show that has 260 plus episodes.
Well, thank you. And I know you have 260 or 250 plus episodes, 260 episodes yourself. And who knew that my innocent email to you asking you about what platform you use for your show would turn into us talking today. I didn't know that that was going to happen. So that was a nice accident at the same time. We both learned more about, this business at the same time, what kind of goes on behind the scenes and trying to keep the show going. And I just really want to thank you for kind of having me here today and also answering all of those questions, because with really 2 paragraphs, you answered all I needed to know about everything that day. And made my life way easier and all of my decisions very simple. So thank you.
I always love exchanges with people and encourage people to send me emails, messages, comments on social media. So, and if anybody wants to come and get involved in the conversation, then you too can also get in touch with me. And I will put all of the links to Brandon's website and podcast into the episode description so that you can easily go and find all of those things. And hopefully we can have you on, Brandon, one day for an update episode when you tell us all about your published book.
Oh, one day I'll get back to the book. And when it does get done, it'll be a pretty weird book. I'll be really happy with it, even if no one ever buys it. I just know when I do it now and finish it, that'll be done the right way, and that I'll just be proud of it. And then I'll be like, hey, I'm an author now.
That's great. Thank you. Go and get your editing done, Brandon. As soon
Thank
as we
you.
finish here, go and do it so that you can get it out the way and it's in the bag and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. And I hope everyone has a good day.
Thank you, Brandon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye. That is the end of this conversation with Brandon Chadwick, host of the Narcissist Apocalypse podcast. For links to Brandon's show, please follow the episode description. And for early access to ad-free full-length episodes of the Cult Vault podcast, please visit patreon.com/The Cult Vault. To get in touch with me, you can find me at cultvaultpodcast@gmail.com or follow me on Twitter and Instagram @cultvaultpod. I'm your speaker, Casey, host of the Cult Vault podcast.